CRISPR gene editing, human-animal hybrid commingling, and the corruption of all flesh. Up next on Fringianity. What is your opinion of the world today? And what does this Bible have to say? Fringianity. Welcome to the show. Now, before I start the show, I just want to point out a few things. This show is a show that talks about fringe topics with a Christian point of view. So if that offends you, please turn it off now, and you don't have to be offended. Okay, so before I completely go into everything right away in the beginning of the show here, I just wanted to read off a few scripture verses that really deal with the world that we're dealing with when it comes to, corruption of the flesh or, the beasts of the earth, animals being genetically manipulated and changed, and basically humans playing God. Humans believe that they are like God now, that they have this, technology, or I shouldn't say that, science has given humans an ego, like they think that they can rule over even the things of God and change them in the way that they think, and they think that it's going to all work out in the end, which the Bible would say otherwise. So the first verse I picked out that I felt kind of fit this whole theme is Genesis 3:4-5. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. I just decided to choose that one because that did feel a little bit, you got to start off somewhere, and that it pretty much started off right in the beginning with Genesis. So the next one is Genesis 6:11-13. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. And of course, I had to put the Noah thing in there, because that was a great destruction that was caused because of the fallen angels had mingled with the humans and created the Nephilim giants on the earth, and they corrupted the animals and everything on the earth at that time. It basically completely screwed up all the DNA of everything, so God decided to destroy everything and start over with Noah, who had a perfect family genetic heritage line or whatever at the time. So he was the only one that was not corrupt. Now the next one, Revelation 6:8. And notice how it was Genesis 6, and then now it's Revelation 6. Isn't that a weird coincidence? And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So, the beasts of the earth. What does that mean? That's talking about animals? So, all the animals are just going to rise up and start killing people just like that? They're going to have this rabies attack, or I don't know. It's really weird that statement is in there in the Bible like that. That's going to be part of what kills off human beings and takes peace from the earth and starts destroying things. I don't know. That could be demonic people. I don't know, people on drugs, because I know there's a lot of sorcery or whatever, pharmakia in the end times, brought on by the merchants of the earth. They use that to deceive the nations. But I don't know what that means. It just seems very strange that that it's very specific and has to say the beasts of the earth. Now, what would they, what if there's genetic manipulation going on in those times? Because right now, as it sits, we have scientists who can bring pig brains to life in a lab without the body. They can put human organs in animals and grow them. They can genetically manipulate things. They can make clones of animals and people. They can do all these weird things. They can take human sperm and basically make, I think it's they could take 3 different people's DNA or whatever, or human sperm or whatever, and basically make a baby out of 3 different people. So that's strange. They can do all these things. And I mean, this is I don't care. But this is gonna sound a little hard, but there's a lot of lesbians and gay people out there, and they're looking to have children. Of course, their life choices has been to the point where they can't have children, obviously, because, male and female are the only ones that can make a baby. So that's obviously the way God intended it, because that's the reason for male and female. But they've chosen a different lifestyle. So they want to have children, but they don't want to have children by the means that God has intended it to be. So they want to be able to have children for themselves out of other means, right? So that gives big business, especially now that, they promote gay and lesbian and all these other strange lifestyles to the whole world, and movies and TV shows and pretty much everywhere. They even promote it to the children, and they try to teach the kids this from baby all the way up into college, because they want to make sure that this agenda gets pushed. So, they're basically trying to make people that way. But those people are going to want to have kids, and they already do want to have kids. And a lot of them, they obviously are not going to have them the normal way, like I said. So they're going to need a lab somewhere, or a scientist or whatever, to create a way for them to have kids. So right there, that slippery slope, we just slipped off of it. Because right there means that they're going to have to create something outside of what God intended in order to make this work. In other words, being gay does not work. We already know the pieces don't fit together, but it actually does not work, in science. So they have to make it work. They have to force it. So now they have to get down to the microscopic little DNA and try to change that. Therefore being the corruption of human flesh. The image of God is being corrupted. That's what that is. There's no doubt about that. That's what the Bible says. It's the corruption of flesh. So, right there, that's just the most simplest thing. You don't have to look so far into the future and go, imagine if a world where, these things happen. No, you don't have to imagine a world. You're already living in a world where it's already starting to happen. I mean, they're giving hormones to people. Trying to make people become something that they're not. And people are in love with a lie, just like the Bible says. They want to believe the lie over the truth of God. So everything that the Bible has warned us is literally happening. These things all these warnings about what it'll be like in the end times. We don't even have to look around very far and we can see all of the warnings that the Bible, that crazy book with those crazy people that believe in it, those crazy radical, fundamentalists, those crazy people that we can't trust, all those crazy people, well, those crazy people are reading a book that's telling them exactly, step by step, how it's going down. And it is going down that way. The reason I'm a Christian is because I can look because I became a Christian because of I could literally see in the Bible, hey, that just happened. And it's written right here in the Bible. Oh, this was written 2,000 years ago? Wow, how did they know that? I don't think they were given this knowledge by the old gods or given this knowledge by aliens. No. It was given from God, the creator of everything. And if you look around, there's a design in everything that shows that there is a creator. I could talk for hours about all that stuff. But my point is, just looking at the most current events, and you'll see where we're heading and what we're doing with the future. And people like to think, the future is going to be a lot better. Things will, mellow out and will be... Yeah, things will not mellow out. Once again, the Bible tells us that. I mean, okay, let's just say a science lab does create, which they have already created things like this. They create a baby from two men instead of, from a man and a woman. They can figure it out a way, whatever. Okay, so they do that. Now that baby, how do we know that baby has a soul? Where does that soul come from? Where does its life come from? Do we know? Is that baby then an image of God, or is it an image of something else? Is that baby created from God, or is that created by man or some other spiritual entity? Like the devil or whatever, So that right there says, I got to wonder, it talks about in the end times that there are people who don't have their names written in the book of life, but they're on the earth. So if I take that literally, that there will be beings on the earth that are not written in the book of life. Every human is written in the book of life when they're born, until they decide to go otherwise, if I'm saying that right anyway. I don't think I'm messing that up. But so if every human has that option, then who are these creatures that have not been written in the book of life? They're living, and yet they're not written in the book of life. So how did they become? I think that that's a strong indication that the nephilim, or whatever you want to call it, beings that are man-made, or, basically with the help of fallen angels or the devil, these creatures are back on the earth as it was in the day of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. That's what Jesus said. Well, let's look at the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, there were giants on the earth, and they were the children of the fallen angels. The fallen angels took wives of the daughters of men, breaking God's law. But angels were given free will, just as humans were given free will. So they took some, it wasn't all of angels, obviously, but some of them did this, and they went down and they took wives of the daughters of humans. So when they did that, their children, the offspring, became giants, and, things got all messed up. And they weren't, because they're not supposed to exist. They don't have a soul. And then they were basically eating people. They were doing all the terriblest things on this earth. And basically God got mad. He said, I'm just going to wipe it out and start over, because the DNA had become corrupted. And Noah's family line was the only line that came directly from Adam. So now, that being said, because of all that mess up and all that, destruction, whatever, God did not want to do that. But because of the angels took their free will and decided to basically leave their home in heaven and come down here and live amongst the human women or whatever and try to be with them. Well, God destroyed those giants, and he did it right before the angels. He locked them up, those angels, and he let them see their offspring being destroyed. That's in the book of Enoch. It talks about all that. So my point is these things are basically back on the earth. They're not on the earth in the way that they were giants, just say, but the spirits of those fallen angels or those giants, when they died, they can't go to heaven. So where do they go? They're stuck. They're either stuck on earth or stuck in, wherever. I don't know, locked up in Tartarus, locked up in Sheol, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. But they're able, after, in the first book, in the Old Testament, they weren't casting out demons. But once in the New Testament came along, they were casting out demons. So something changed from the old times into the new times after the flood. So in other words, when the giants died, their spirits were doomed to haunt the earth forever, to wander the earth. And now that's when possession started taking places and all that stuff, and that's why we're dealing with so many crazy things today, because demon possession, that's really the fallen angels, or not the fallen angels, the giants, the spirits of the giants, because they don't have a spirit of God, they have a spirit from something else that wasn't intended to exist. Okay, now that all that's explained, my point is these things that the scientists create in a lab now, what kind of spirit goes into them? If it's not a spirit of God, then is it a spirit of one of these nephilim from before the flood? And those things were eating people, they were raping people, they were doing all these torturous things. I'm sure they were molesting children, doing all kinds of wicked things on the earth. So look around today. We got all of those things happening. Just people start going crazy. You can watch these videos on YouTube of just people in the subway, just literally just changing right before you on camera, and then all of a sudden they want to bite people and eat them and do all these weird things. It's like, yeah, you could, they're on drugs. Well, pharmakia, it says in the end times, is how the merchants of the earth deceive the nations and deceive the people. And it's a form of control. In other words, you're high on drugs and you're more susceptible to another spirit. If you ever notice, you drive by liquor stores, it says wine and spirits. I wonder what kind of spirits, because I've known some people that got pretty drunk before, and when they got drunk, they changed into something else. I myself, at one point when I was younger, when I used to drink, because I don't drink at all anymore, at one time I got drunk, and I watched a guy who was, kind of hitting on all the ladies or whatever, and I was at a friend's wedding. And I jumped over a table, and I don't even remember how I did all this. I literally jumped over a table and literally landed on that guy with my hand around his neck, choking him on, the dance floor, basically. And I was just like, because I was mad because I could see his wife across the room with his baby while he's over there dancing with all these girls and kind of hitting on them. And some of those people were family to me. So that's why I got so upset. But of course I had no excuse for that. That was drunkenness, But I don't even remember going from my seat to doing that. And then as soon as I had my hand around his neck, it's like there was something that took over me. Yeah, wine and spirits. I mean, think about that. What spirits? So anyway, my point is that these things are going to be corrupting the earth in the end times, and science is just helping it. And these labs and all these people, they're using technology. And basically, here's how it works. Okay, they use CRISPR technology. It's a new gene editing thing, and they talk nicely about it. It's the wave of the future. It's going to be helping us in the future because we can do all kinds of wonderful things. They always talk about the wonderful things that they can do with science. But in the end, it always gets used against us or it gets used wrongly. because it depends on who has the power. And remember, everyone is a sinner. So nothing is going to be perfect. So listen to this.
What if you can make specific changes in the DNA of humans, animals, and plants? It's essentially a means of altering the human being with expected limits in the future only set by how far our imagination can reach. This breakthrough technology is what's called CRISPR, which is just an acronym for Clustered, Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeat. Anyways, to explain how it works, we'll have to jump into a bacteria cell. When a bacterial cell defeats a virus, it collects bits of the virus's DNA and stores it so that the cell can recognize the invading DNA quicker next time and know how to quickly destroy it. It's a defense mechanism kind of similar to if we were taking a criminal mugshot of the virus. How the bacterial cell defeats the virus, though, is thanks to the CRISPR sequences found in between these pieces of genetic memory. If the CRISPR sequences notice that a virus has invaded based on the cell's collection of mugshots, or if a new virus invades, CRISPR RNA will cut up the virus and protect the bacterial cell. Scientists came to realize this process can be applied to just about any living organism's genome if we just manually change the mugshot that the CRISPR guide RNA searches for. In a lab, scientists first synthesized short guide RNA molecules that match a specific DNA sequence. Using the clam-shaped Cas9 enzyme, the guide RNA will tell the enzyme where to actually cut on the DNA sequence. The guide RNA and the Cas9 enzyme are followed by a manufactured host RNA, which the gene will recognize and naturally insert in the gene sequence as a natural repair mechanism. So essentially, we are first telling the Cas9 enzyme where to go. The enzyme will cut the existing DNA sequence, and this will either inactivate the gene, or we can insert a strand of RNA to create a different or healthier gene. Think of it like editing an essay on your computer. You can tell your word processor what spelling mistake to find. The word processor finds it, and you can eliminate the word or replace it with the correct spelling. Now, how is this useful, and what will the future look like with this technology? Well, if we take Huntington's disease for example, theoretically, we can use CRISPR technology to break up the Huntington's gene and repair it so that we eliminate the disease from that person. This same idea extends to a vast number of other diseases as well. But there are some things to consider. This technology could be used to genetically modify unborn babies as well as humans. If we genetically modify humans enough, will there be a new class of citizens in our society, or even an attempt to create the perfect race again? Nonetheless, CRISPR will most likely be our future.
Well, that's really kind of creepy if you think about it. Making the perfect race again. Who is that referring to? Oh, the Nazis. They were trying to make, the perfect race. Wow. Yeah, that can be done now because of CRISPR technology. Oh, isn't that wonderful? So imagine a day when they try to make the perfect human race. A bunch of flawed sinners can make something perfect. So imperfection can make perfection. Okay, it's no wonder that science believes that we came from a bunch of pond slime and somehow turned from that into apes, which are still around today, and then from apes turned into what we have today. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so I just like that little video thing because it really summed up CRISPR, and how it works and how they can edit things and do all that. It's basically humans playing God. That's all it is. It's just humans can now play God, and they think that they can do whatever they want. We can make for ourselves a utopia. Unfortunately, that utopia is going to be a dystopia. So, yeah, just the thought that they're going to try to perhaps make perfect people perfect for who? Who is the one that's going to decide what is perfect and what is not? And what kind of creature will it be? I mean, we're already trying to give animal rights to like monkeys or whatever, and say that they have rights in court, that they can sue you or whatever for how you treated an animal or whatever. The court, the lawyers can do that for the animal. It's like, okay, so let's go a little further down the road where we mix human and animal DNA and turn it into something else. Something that's not human and that's not animal. It's a mix. I mean, if you go back and look at Egypt and look at some of the goddesses and gods and stuff that are on some of these walls in Egypt, in the pyramids and all that, you're going to see right away, you're going to be like, wow, there's giants sitting in chairs eating babies. And then you're going to see also that there are half man, half bird, humans basically with bird heads, humans with different, and then you go all through history, you see like half bull, half man, you get different animals that are mixed. I mean, look at the Chronicles of Narnia. Just watch that movie. It's hard. I wonder sometimes how Christians actually believe in those movies. Oh, it was made by a Christian, and the lion is supposed to be like Jesus. Okay, look who is on the good side. There's a half man, half goat, who basically was almost like kind of borderline a child molester, He basically he drugs a young little girl with her in her tea. He drugs her and basically deceives her. And anything could have happened once she passes out in his house. Okay? And it's a half man, half goat. Okay? So that's like, it's basically, it's like the devil, That's really what it's like. It's like the devil. Look at the guy. I mean, it looks like Baphomet or whatever. It's really disgusting. And this is a book written by a supposedly Christian, That's what everyone told us, growing up. Oh, it's a Christian. It's written by a Christian. It's a great story. It's good for all ages, whatever. It shows, a lion defeats the witch. Wow, okay. But now as I got older and I've actually read the Bible and understood things in the Bible, I'm like, you know what? None of those mixed things should be considered godly because they're mixed. God created the animals according to their kind. So a lion would be a lion. He wouldn't talk. He'd be a lion. And, all the animals would be their kind. There wouldn't be half men, half horses, as there are in the Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe, and they're working on the good side. So whatever. That's just something I always noticed. But those things, I believe, are coming back in style. I believe that probably Egypt actually knew about those things. They probably existed in the past, believe it or not. Just like all these old gods that people talk highly about. Oh, the gods, the great gods, the old gods, Zeus, Thor, all these, Odin, these things were probably existent, but unfortunately they were destroyed or locked up in Tartarus for, a certain amount of time until they get released or whatever. So all that existed. So if all these things might have existed, imagine what kind of a world that must have been. But the problem is people will just tell you you're crazy. Or if you're a Christian and you're talking about this stuff, see, Christians are crazy. Listen to what they're saying. It's insane. You can't believe any of this. Oh, you can't believe any of this. And yet we can believe that that aliens came and seeded the human race, sprinkle some seeds on the earth, and, they will grow up to be just good humans, like we created them. Okay, who created the aliens? Who? I want to know who created the aliens. And if those people were another race of something, okay, who created them? We can keep going as far back as the turtle, whatever it goes back to, you know. The problem is the same people that will say Christians are crazy, a lot of them believe in that. That's the crazy part. They believe, aliens had to have seeded the earth. There's a lot of scientists that are working today that believe that. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to play a little clip from a movie thing here that really shows. It talks about, it's from the old movie Splice. It's been around for a while, but it talks about the idea of mixing things and turning it into something else. So listen to this.
That's it.
Heart rate stable.
Splice is about two young, brilliant scientists, played by Adrian Brody and Sarah Polley. And what they do is create hybrid organisms by splicing DNA from different species for a large pharmaceutical company. But they're young and they're ambitious. And what they really want to do is add human DNA to the mix. But the company objects to this, so they do it in secret. And then terrible, terrible things result.
You can't let her out. Specimens need to be contained.
Don't call her that.
What is going on?
Really, my interest in making the film was not so much in, I think, what is typically done in these sort of films where the creature goes on the loose and wreaks havoc in the city, but in keeping the film enclosed, keeping it hermetic, and making it much more about the relationships between the creators and the creation.
It's empty. Clyde?
I think that's where Splice steps into places that other films have not tread, or have been perhaps a little bit afraid to tread, because there is a sexual component to this story. There's a sexual component to the relationship between the scientist and the creature that's about as Freudian as you can get.
You've crossed the line.
What did you expect when you made it? Didn't you have a plan?
The prime directive of any life form is to procreate. And when you create something like Dren, that's an aspect of her being that you're going to have to address. And I think what's so wonderful about the horror genre is that it gives you license to go to places that you could never comfortably go with a normal film. Like if we made a movie about incest, that's a film that probably not many people would want to see. But if you make a horror film that on a almost subliminal level deals with that theme, it actually could be wildly popular.
She's become unstable.
This is the disaster everyone warns about. A new species set loose in the world.
Part of the excitement of watching this film is not knowing what Dren will ultimately become, because she evolves in her life cycle. She evolves in a very radical way, and she actually begins as something quite ugly, a creature or a child that only a mother could love. But as she grows, she turns into something quite beautiful, something that is possibly a step up on the evolutionary ladder.
It's slippery.
What was that?
A mistake.
I mean, this film on some level is about, well, on many levels, is about evolution. It's about how Dren grows up. It's about how Clive and Elsa as characters grow up. And in some respect, it's about how we as a species are growing up or evolving. And I'm almost certain that, given what's going on with this technology, that we are going to play a hand in our own evolution.
So we're going to play a hand in our own evolution. Okay, that's new to me, but and notice how he talked about, sexual desires toward this creature. That, because I seen that movie. I don't know why I watched it, but I think I seen it on a TV channel or something a long time ago, before I was even really a Christian. And I didn't like that movie at all. It's called Splice. You could find it out there. It's just it's not a good movie. I wouldn't advise watching it. But it basically, the guy in that movie, he basically has sexual desires toward this creature. It's because it's a female creature, but it's really gross looking. It doesn't look human. It's really weird. And because he's the creator, I don't know, it's this Frankenstein's monster kind of thing. Whatever. But it's really weird that, that he would have that kind of desire toward this creature, like a monster type thing. It's just so strange. This movie is weird, and it's gross, and But the thing is it's according to the scientists, it's evolution. We have to let this happen because it's evolution. Well, whatever happened in according to science, I thought we evolved naturally. I didn't think that we had to go in a lab and change ourselves. I thought, according to their own logic, we are evolving, right? So I guess it's not happening fast enough, right? So humans, what are they, evolving into creatures and monsters? Is that what they're saying here? So we're not going to be human anymore. We're going to be a beast of some kind? Kind of reminds me of Revelation, the beasts of the earth. These creatures that they're trying to... And by the way, the scientists, the people who are creating these things, they're not going to evolve. They're still human. They're still the same. They didn't change. The thing that they're making is change. They're changing things. They're making the beasts. So I don't know how they think that humans are going to play a hand in their own evolution, because they're not the one that's evolving. It's the creature that they evolve, and the beast, the mingling of animal and human flesh, And, Jesus talks about a time when there's no flesh left on the earth because, whatever, something happens, that even the flesh, even the human race will be gone, if it wasn't for him returning. It's really creepy stuff to think about, but just imagine a time when human, animal, lion people, like half man, half lion, there have been in history, you'd see these images drawn of half man, half lion, half wolf, half man, all these mingled things. Imagine a time when those things are given rights, by a court. They create these creatures, and the courts, being liberal as they are, because everything's owned by liberals nowadays, they just say, you know what? We have to give them rights because we care about the animals. Don't we care about the animals? We care about the animals. I mean, we want to abort our own children, but we care about the animals, especially the things that we just made in the lab. We have to care about those things. I mean, they want to give rights to robots. I mean, Saudi Arabia gave rights, basically gave human rights to that robot, whatever woman that's being, showed off at all these events, the talking robot that, it's whatever. It's just a mouth and a face, that there's nothing really to it. But, they turned that into a thing, so why wouldn't they give rights to these beasts that they create? Why wouldn't they give rights to anything that they create in a lab, Unless it's like slavery, somebody like George Soros needs a kidney transplant or something, and he calls up a lab and says, yeah, I need a kidney right now, and they just grow one in some, pig or something, and they just pull it on out. Or they grow a clone of him or something, and then they just cut it right out, and then just let that clone die because, that's some kind of a weird slave type thing. And I'm not feeling bad for the clone because the clone doesn't have a soul probably. But whatever, I'm just saying that there's a gray line being made by the devil. He's creating this, gray line. What is good? What is bad? Let's question that because we don't know what's good and bad anymore. Even Adam and Eve knew good from bad after the greatest sin that ever was made. I mean, it literally echoed throughout time till now. Even they knew right from wrong. So to live in a time where right from wrong is questionable, we don't even know right from wrong, that's even worse than you can imagine, And, you have to wonder what the morals are of these people that do this. Or do they even have any? Or do they just say, I want to be God. I want to create my own thing. Because right now, I believe that in Mexico somewhere or some third world nation, like Africa or whatever, I believe that there are there's labs set up somewhere where they're testing things that is totally illegal. But because the laws in these countries, or because of the corporation that's there, has so much power they can just make up the rules. And then they can just go, you know what? We're just going to make something here. And what if there's areas already in this world where these creatures or these monsters already exist? You know? What if they just let them out in like the woods somewhere and then they hunt people? What if they they test them out to see if they want to kill us or they want to, live with us, or how that works by, just taking some human trafficked people and just putting them in the woods with this thing. It sounds like a science fiction story, but it could be possible in today's life. The way that the world is today, it's very possible. And with the way, with governments and all these black projects, they take our tax dollars and they never do anything good with it. We don't know where our money goes. Hillary Clinton lost like $1 billion. She lost a bunch of money. Obama, these people just send money to whoever they want. We don't know where money goes. We don't even know. With the high debt this country's in, we don't know where half that money went. We don't know what it goes to. We don't know anything. I know that I don't like to fund abortion, but you know what? I think things are worse than that even. So, it's just really getting very science fiction-y. The world is becoming like a science fiction horror, It's becoming almost like it's just, I don't know. It's very dark, very creepy if you think about it. And to think that something could be made that's half man, half animal, or half whatever, and here's the thing: we give religious rights to like Muslims, even though they, some of them kill people, chop the heads off people, and it's like we almost want to look over that because we don't want to talk about that. Well, what if in the future these creatures go out and eat people? And we give them rights, and we're like, well, we don't want to talk about that because, it's their right. That's just their character trait. We have to let them be themselves. Otherwise, you're a bigot, for not understanding, Well, that's where this could go, and it's just bizarre. And it's just a subject I really wanted to talk about for a while, and I just didn't really, I don't know how to talk about it. And I almost, there's a story that I'd like to talk, I'd almost like to write a story about this. Because I had a couple dreams that are similar to this and dealing with this type of stuff. And I'd like to make a story and actually release something like that, where it's dealing with this stuff. Because it's a slippery slope when you're dealing with genetics and DNA and, altering what it is to be human or animal, and playing God in a lab somewhere, because this is, it's just not good. And it's not biblical, it's not something that God would be proud of, and none of these creatures that are created in a lab, I don't think are going to heaven. I think they're the ones that are on the earth, they're not written in the book of life. And they are part of the beasts of the earth that kill people, I think. And I think that they're part of the end times. Basically, Revelation was never wrong. And this is just part of the weird and bizarre stuff that we're going to have to deal with in the future. And I just figured I'd address it because I never hear anyone talk about this that much. So I figured I'd talk about it on a show that talks about fringe things, because this is about as fringe as you can get. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's just kind of one of those things that's interesting to talk about and maybe think about and be ready for in the near future. So that's about all I have for this week. Thank you for listening. If you like this show, please share it with your friends. Promote it as much as possible before the internet censors us and takes down all of our content. Also check out the Fringianity Podcast Facebook group and page. New shows will be posted there, as well as show images, so check that out too. That's all for this show, so thank you very much for listening, and God bless.